asking me to reclaim my hosthood.
Oh, please don't.
But no, I'm happy to share. All this stuff comes up nowadays, your AI, your note-taking. Anyway, so what's our, do I sing for a minute?
Uh, Please feel free, Maharaj. Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
Turn on the music settings, I think.
we are live.
Where's the music settings?
Is there some special setting I should do? Because
No, Maharaj, that's fine.
I don't know how the sound is picked up by the mic on this camera.
It's okay, Maharaj. Just go ahead.
Okay.
Chill sound for musicians.
Jai Ram, Rama, Rama, Jai Hari, Jai Radha, Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Girivardhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Girivardhari, Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Jamunatira Vana Chari Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jayadadha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayadadha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
All right, I'll just share the screen. I told you verse 23, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh God. Okay. All right.
Should we reorient?
Ta-da.
Yeah, I thought Tadal was in Sanskrit.
Okay, we can.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So this morning we will take a look at Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, Text 23. This is the last verse of the first chapter. Do we chant responsibly?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Ruhi Yogeshware Krishne
Bruhi Yogeshware Krishne
Brahmanye Dharmavarmani
Brahmanye Dharma Varmani
Sankastam Adunopete
Svam Kashtam Adunopete
Dharmakam Sharanangata
Dharmakam Sharanam Gata
Ruhi Yogeshware Krishne
Bruhi Yogeshware Krishne
Brahmanye Dharmavarmani
Brahmanye Dharma Varmani
Sankastam Adunopete
Svam Kashtam Adunopete
Dharmakam Sharanangata
Dharmakam Sharanam Gata
Ruhi Yogeshware Krishne
Bruhi Yogeshware Krishne
Brahmanye Dharmavarmani
Brahmanye Dharma Varmani
Sankashtam Adunopete
Swam Kashtam Adunopete
Dharmakam Sharanangata.
Dharmakam Sharanam Gata
Others?
Bruhi Yogeshware Krishne
Bruhi Yogeshware Krishne
Brahmanye Dharma Varmani
Brahmanye Dharma Varmani
Swam Kashtang Adunopete
Swam Kashtam Adunopete
Dharmakam Sharanam Gata
Dharmakam Sharanam Gata
Ruhi Yeshware Krishna
Bruhi Yogeshware Krishne
Amanye Dharma Varmani
Brahmanye Dharma Varmani
Sankastam Aduno Pete
Svam Kashtam Adunopete
Dharmakam Saranam Gataha.
Dharmakam Sharanam Gata
Word to word. Bruhi,
Bruhi,
please tell.
please tell.
Yoga Ishvare,
Yoga Ishvare,
the Lord of all mystic powers.
the Lord of all mystic powers.
Krishna,
Krishna,
Lord Krishna.
Lord Krishna.
Brahmanye,
Brahmanye,
the absolute truth.
the absolute truth.
Dharma,
Dharma,
religion.
religion.
Varmani,
Varmani,
protector.
protector.
Svam,
Swam,
Om.
Om.
Kashtam,
Kashtam,
abode.
abode.
Adhuna,
Aduna,
nowadays.
nowadays.
Te,
Upete,
having gone away.
having gone away.
Dharma,
Dharma,
religion.
religion.
Come,
Come,
whom?
unto whom?
Saranam,
Sharanam,
shelter.
shelter.
Yatana,
Gata,
gone.
gone.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Since Sri Krishna, the Absolute Truth, the Master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us to whom the religious principles have now gone for shelter. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Essentially, religion is the prescribed codes enunciated by the personality of Godhead himself. Whenever there is gross misuse or neglect of the principles of religion, the Supreme Lord appears himself to restore religious principles. This is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Here, the sages of Naimisharanya are inquiring about these principles. The reply to this question is given later. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental sound representation of the personality of Godhead, and thus it is the full representation of transcendental knowledge and religious principles. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Questions by the Sages. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukhaṁ Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Bruhi Yogeshware Krishne Brahmanye Dharmavarmani Sankashtam Adunopete Dharmakang Sharanangataha. Since Sri Krishna, the Absolute Truth, the master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us to whom the religious principles have now gone for shelter. I have to admit, I keep wanting to read the second pada of this verse, Brahmane Dharma Vartmani. Varmani's not a, it's not a word I'm really familiar with except in this verse. And I kept thinking, okay, and I checked different editions to see if maybe there was something missing. But then I thought, oh, wait, let's look at the Devanagari. Nope, no ta. So it's Varmani. Although I was further confused when I looked at Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, and he says, Krishna is the protector of Dharma, Dharma Vartmani. So anyway, more homework. So this is the last verse of the chapter, which is titled Questions by the Sages. And this is the last question. They ask 6 questions. So in his purport, Srila Prabhupada begins by telling us, essentially, religion is the prescribed codes enunciated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And we hear elsewhere that, actual dharma is that which is shown to us by the example of the Mahajanas. So religion's a big word, and it includes all kinds of things. Nowadays, I remember hearing someone recently discussing on a podcast. Well, in a sense, in the sense that religion is a sort of credo, a system of belief. scientific materialism could be considered a religion because people are very devoted to that, this mechanistic materialism, the idea that there isn't anything other than the different kinds of particles of matter, and that even consciousness is just an illusion created by different combinations of material elements in the brain. And then we have all sorts of things passed off as religion. We have all these, um, the world religions, the great world religions, um, uh, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, uh, and Hinduism. You got Shintoism, Confucianism, Taoism is often kind of seen as a sort of religion. Um, and then you have all sorts of really strange things that people accept as religions. My sister-in-law, my former wife's older sister, who's my age, is a retired sociology professor. Her specialization was the sociology of religion. She wrote her master's thesis um, on some aspect of bhakti yoga, something about the name. I'd have to take a look again and at the library and see uh, again just what the title of the thesis was. But it had something to do with the holy name, and then also I think uh, I read it very long time ago. Also has had something to do with the names that devotees adopt. And she wrote her PhD dissertation at UCLA on a flying saucer religion, that flying saucer cult that was present in East San Diego County. I can't remember what they called themselves. Um, hmm. Anyway, their leader was this older lady who wore white fairy costumes or something like that. And they were all waiting for the space brothers to come and deliver us from the foolishness. So we have all these different kinds um, of things that pass as religion. So Srila Prabhupada says, religion is essentially the prescribed codes enunciated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I think more to the point, we could say that essential religion um, is those prescribed codes that are meant to bring us to the personality of Godhead himself. So the second verse of the Bhagavatam tells us, um, among other things, what what the general topic is of Srimad Bhagavatam, but also, as I often point out, who the most who is the audience most likely to be able to appreciate the Bhagavatam's message. And that is people who are completely pure in heart. Um, and we know that they're pure in heart because they're completely free of envy. And the verse also tells us why it is they're free of envy, because they don't have any personal agenda. They are dharma prochita kaitava. They've given up all kinds of cheating religion. And here we're talking not just about um, religions that seem, well, I guess a little materialistic to devotees of the Bhagavatam, such as Islam, Christianity, etc. But even the apparent religions prescribed in the Vedic scriptures. I think I mentioned last week that Srila Prabhupada's godbrother, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, um, referred to the Vedas on a few occasions as a jungle of sounds, because there's something there for everybody. I think I mentioned this the other day too at the Krishna house, that the Puranas, there's some of the Puranas are meant for elevating folks from the mode of ignorance to the mode of passion, others for elevating people from the mode of passion to the mode of goodness. And those, for those, especially for those who are in the mode of goodness, but still they have um, hmm, different approaches, different emphases. And the Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, is meant for elevating, or actually elevating and satisfying those who are approaching the mode of purified goodness, where their character is not tinged, or much less tinged anyway, by even a tinge of the um, even of the mode of material goodness, which is still infected um, by some little bit of passion and ignorance. And the mode of purified goodness um, is that stage, that platform on which the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests himself. Here at the San Diego Temple, we're at the beginning of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. We're in the second chapter now, but we've seen in the first and second chapters, first of all, it's explained in great detail why it is that Krishna is about to appear. And we know this, as Srila Prabhupada mentions in today's purport, we know this from the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna himself states it explicitly. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhutanam adharmatma. Anyway, whenever there, as Srila Prabhupada says here, um, gross misuse or neglect of the principle of religion, and a progressive prominence of, irreligion or even cheating religion, then the Supreme Lord himself will come. Or sometimes he sends a representative, but he says, sometimes I actually come myself. So this is kind of what's being hinted at here. Krishna is presented by King Parikshit as the access to Dharma. King Parikshit asks this, brings this up at the end of the Shukadev Goswami's narration of the Rasa dance. And he says, well, Krishna is actually our access to Dharma. He's Dharma Setu. And so he asks about that. And so what the Bhagavatam does is present the essential dharma. There's just as there are different meanings for the word, for a word like Atma. Atma can mean body, it can mean mind, um, and it can mean the self, the jiva. Uh, um, there was another word that it just escaped me. So much fun, getting old. So, so in the same way, there are different kind of levels of understanding what dharma is. And the ultimate dharma, the paro dharma, is devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here at the beginning, very early in Kali Yuga, these sages have assembled at the forest of Naimisharanya to perform a 1,000-year sacrifice. Prabhupada refers to, I think it's in Srila Prabhupada's purport earlier in the first canto. He refers to it as a chain of spiritual activities being carried out, fire sacrifices and all kinds of things. But the ultimate part of that sacrifice, the pinnacle of that sacrifice, the actual purifying element of that sacrifice is the discussion that follows these questions that are that the sages ask of Shukadev Goswami. So I just wanted to share Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's here, Thakur's commentary on this verse, because this is wrapping up, the chapter, he restates all six questions. So he says, Krishna is the protector of Dharma, acting like armor for Dharma. The cause is then mentioned. Yogeshware indicates Krishna's powers. Brahmanye, devoted to the righteous, indicates his merciful nature. Svankashtam means his own sthiti or maryada. And according to the Amarakosha, kashta means excellence, continuous condition or direction, and maryada means righteousness and continuous condition. That abode became invisible to worldly people after 120 years after its appearance, he says. So Krishna is the abode of all religious principles, and now he's gone. So the sages are concerned. How, where does religion reside now? Where has it taken shelter? Where do we find real religion? So then Vishwanath says, the six questions of the sages were, 1, you should explain what is most beneficial for humanity. 2, tell us, tell us who have faith the essence of all scriptures by which the intellect is pleased. 3, you should tell us who desire to hear the purpose of Krishna's appearance from Devaki. That question is going to be answered, in the first, especially in the first couple of chapters. Um, the first chapter is kind of an introduction, set up, setting the stage. And the second, which has more setup, is primarily the devatas praying to Krishna in the womb. The fourth, describe the pastimes of Krishna, who has all the avatars within him. And that's also mentioned there at the beginning of the 10th chapter, that when Krishna comes, all the avatars, the Chaturvyuha, Sankarshan, Aniruddha, Sankarshan, Aniruddha. Well, it's not a Chaturvyuha if I only have two of them. Sorry, I'm just kind of, this is the first day I've felt well after what turned out to be a 3-day migraine. 5, describe the stories of the avatars, and we're going to see those unfold over the next few cantos. We'll have a Kapila Dev, Varaha, Nrsimhadev, and so many others show up in the course of moving through the different cantos leading up to the 10th canto. And the last, this one, tell us where the shelter of Dharma is, where we can find real Dharma now that Krishna has departed. And we know the answer to the last question. The Bhagavatam itself says that this is an incarnation of the Lord. This is the sound incarnation of the Lord, and that all essential religious principles lie in the Bhagavatam. And the Bhagavatam is described, as I mentioned the other day, in the 3rd verse of the 1st chapter, as the ripened fruit of the tree of the Vedas. Fully ripened fruit, galitam. And that this fruit doesn't have anything extraneous. And we see that in the 2nd verse, right? This text is for people who've already rejected all kinds of self-motivated religion. They have completely rejected the aspiration for personal virtue, for the kind of material progress we make through our virtuous behavior, the pleasures, the comforts that come from that material progress. And once we have kind of seen through the illusion of the whole thing, once we've seen through the scam of the material world, then freedom, moksha. And as I often point out, in the 22nd chapter of Madhya Lila, when Lord Chaitanya is instructing Sanatana Goswami, and he cites the second verse of the Bhagavatam. Krishnadas Kaviraj has Mahaprabhu reciting the second verse of the Bhagavatam for Sanatana Goswami, and he says, so what do we mean when we say cheating religion? We mean dharma, artha, kama, moksha, vancha. These are the four great goals, the four great values of human society. But the Bhagavatam is for people who don't have any whose interest in those things has been completely obliterated by their interest in bhakti. And that real religion is found here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. When Narada Muni approached Vyasadeva, found him depressed, despondent, even after he had compiled all the Vedas and the Puranas and the Itihasas, then but still he felt unfulfilled. So he's sitting there wondering, just, what's missing? What have I done wrong? Have I not sufficiently glorified Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And Narad Muni comes along and tells him, that's exactly your problem. Your problem is that, you've made this attempt to create a literature for the upliftment of all humankind, but you're missing something. You have not sufficiently glorified Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by extension, his devotional service and the devotees who engage in that service. And so Vyasadeva kind of revises the Bhagavad Purana to make it this fully transcendental literature that we have now. And we see that we will see in the next chapter that the Bhagavatam, just by regularly serving the Bhagavatam, by hearing it and serving those who've given their lives to the Bhagavatam, that anything that's inauspicious in the heart automatically becomes practically destroyed. And so that makes our hearts better places, more suitable places for the Lord to live. And so, that's what's being suggested here, being actually stated outright here in Srila Prabhupada's purport. He says the Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental sound representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it's the full representation of transcendental knowledge and religious principles. So we'll see that the Bhagavatam, that when this question is answered, the answer is Srimad Bhagavatam, that it's meant to create a revolution in an impious society. And indeed, this was my experience when I started reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and I saw in Srila Prabhupada's purport to that second verse of the Bhagavatam that he makes the very strong assertion that those who are devotees of the Srimad Bhagavatam, those who are devotees of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, they don't have any interest in competing with anyone else for any kind of resources in the material world. Instead, They strive, he says, to create a competition-less society with God at the center. This is the Ishavasya society that's envisioned in the Isha Upanishad. So this is a great adventure that we're embarking on here, reading Srimad Bhagavatam together. And as we go through it, it will be wonderful to see how the number of participants grows as Krishna House LA grows. I'd like to leave some time for discussion.
So, Maharaj, something I was considering as the class was going on was that you had mentioned sort of like advice that Vyasadeva received to rework the Bhagavatam to be more directly in glorification of Lord Krishna, right? So I heard that and I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But then I was considering you also talked about the layout of the Bhagavatam and how, several cantos are spent on the activities, pastimes of so many avatars, right? Like you mentioned Kapila Dev, and there's also Narasimha Dev, and Lord Rama is in the 9th canto, and so on. So I'm just wondering, the Bhagavatam is supposed to be like this, the whole point of the Bhagavatam is like, there's this great urgency, so we have to distill all the most important information into, in Parikshit Maharaj's case, like 7 days worth of content. Why not, take the direct pastimes of, the Krishna that is 100% Krishna and expound more upon those in the time available?
That's a good question. It's a perfect question, actually. If that question didn't arise, it would probably be due to our own laziness. The way the Bhagavatam is presented is it's devised in a way that our hearts become progressively purified, so that we will be able to actually appreciate Krishna's appearance and pastimes when they happen. We see different conceptions kind of presented along the way. If there's an avatar in the 2nd canto, it would be a universal form of the Lord that's presented. It's a kind of a beginner's meditation on how to see the Supreme Brahman present even in the material world. And so there, the idea of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva is presented in a sort of roundabout way. And we see that that's not a philosophy, even though maybe Jiva Goswami coined the term Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, that the conception wasn't created by Jiva Goswami, nor was it created by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It wasn't even actually originally conceived in Srimad Bhagavatam, because we see that where that idea becomes most clearly crystallized in the 2nd canto is a chapter called Purusha Sukta Confirmed. And so the idea that God is at once immanent in everything, he's at once omnipresent, and at the same time, at the very same moment, absolutely completely aloof from everything. So in a sense, the 2nd canto tells us that a way of seeing one way of seeing how Krishna is present, and that is, these representations in the material world. The mountains are his bones, the rivers are the veins of his body, the forests are the hairs on his body, the sun and the moon are his eyes, etc. That's a very rudimentary way, very very much a beginner's way of how to see God everywhere. And that's a different idea from what people might think of as pantheism, which that's God's everywhere. In other words, God has kind of spread himself out in the material world, and that's the only place he's present. And then we see kind of progressively confidential understandings presented throughout the subsequent chapters, the third, fourth, and all the way to the ninth canto of the Bhagavatam. So it's a way of preparing the audience to actually understand the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and activities. And that's particularly important when we get to the most confidential of those pastimes, which is the Rasa Panchadhyaya, those 5 chapters in the 10th canto, the 29th through 33rd chapters, where Krishna engages in dancing with the young cowherd women of Vrindavan in the dead of night, so that we won't misunderstand it. And even at the end of that, after being prepared for that through 9 cantos, King Parikshit still kind of like double checks right at the very end of the narration of the rasa dance. And that's where we see Krishna as being presented as the access and the goal of religion. And he asks, well, why would he do something that seems so irreligious? And gives Shukadev the Goswami the opportunity to remind us that these are the pastimes of Vishnu. These Vikriti, he uses the word Vikriditam. This is the playful pastimes of Lord Vishnu. Why Vishnu? Well, Vishnu's easily a lot of people's conception of God, because all the universes come from one of the Purusha avatars. And then and the Purusha, and then another Purusha avatar lives within each universe. And also because Vishnu, one understanding of the word Vishnu is that he's all pervading. And Krishna became all pervading during the rasa dance. So there's this constant reminder that what's being discussed here, although there may be things peripherally discussed that may not appear to be absolutely transcendental, each of these things is being shown as a way of contrasting everything with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Krishna Bhakti. That's a quick, easy answer, but maybe just kind of a beginning of a discussion. We see that the Bhagavatam is intended to be read straight through from the first canto up to the 10th. And then the 11th and 12th cantos reflect back on the 10th canto. So the first and second cantos are presented as the Lord's lotus feet. Third and fourth cantos is his thighs, and then you've got his chest. And then the 10th canto is his smiling face. So we're supposed to meditate on the Lord, beginning with his lotus feet. So that's also part of that Maryada, that proper approach to the Bhagavatam.
Yeah, thank you, Maharaj. That's a nice way to look at it.
Okay, we're just about there. Oh, we are there. Bing.
Well,
Okay,
thank you.
so I'm going to thank you again, as always, for the opportunity to be part of Krishna House LA, even if remotely. And thank you all for your company. And I'll hope you all have the best of days.
All right, take care, everyone. Thank you for coming, Chaitanya Lila Prabhu.